But the first step would take 30 to 90 days, and that would be to figure out which shelter would be the best to host the pilot program. We'd look at, animal flow, staff and volunteers, and identify the needs. At the same, then once the shelter is identified, it would be up to 60 days to develop the volunteer and rescue base to support the program at that one shelter. So nothing happens just overnight. We wouldn't start Wednesday, in other words. So we're talking about a long rollout. So you can't, unless you have the people who are willing to do the training and invest in the program, and unless we can create that group of people of staff, volunteers, and rescue groups, then we wouldn't be able to go forward with the pilot, and it would stop at that point. So each step along the way has a benchmark. If we do get through those steps and we have what we feel is a good base, then a coordinator would be hired, a grant-supported position by the ASPCA to oversee and implement the program at that one shelter. Then the training for the pilot program would begin once the volunteer base has been built for the program, and if ample volunteers are there. I'm not going to get into the whole detail, but there's the hands-on training. There'd be a certain number of people who could be in a training class, so there might have to be more than one session. I would just throw out there. The coordinator then will continue the on-site training and support as the program is implemented. So there is someone there who continues to know about it. And then, assuming that the volunteer and rescue base can be built in 2013, a program, can be built in 2013. The pilot program could be implemented at one shelter, and so we're thinking 12 months to get this rolled out, and that's developing the staff, the volunteers, and deciding which shelter. So we're not thinking about something, really quickly. I'm going to actually let Heather and Emily speak to more of the specific questions, or ask them to do that. But I just made a few notes, and I didn't make as many as you guys did, so I think I flipped them pretty quickly. I recently had an experience where I looked at we give you guys these WOOFstat statistics every month, and I noticed that one of the shelters suddenly was killing a lot more animals than that shelter had been killing the previous year. And we went over and looked to see why that was happening, and they had written behavior on every animal. And we don't have any way to assess that, and it's not even allowed, but they had written behavior on every one of those dogs that they had killed. And it was a considerably higher number than had been killed in that shelter at the same time the previous year. So we need some kind of an assessment tool here. The question about testing in a shelter environment when they first come in, I don't know what they're going to say, but in the shelters that I've been the administrator, and by the way, I've never taken the shelter, I've never taken the training, but it's been implemented in a couple of shelters that I worked in. In the situations that I know about, we didn't bring them right in the front door and assess them. We brought them in the front door and gave them, 24, 48, whatever time to settle down before there was any kind of an assessment. And then if they were there a certain amount of time, or if we saw a different behavior, we reassessed them. So I think that is, I believe that's built in. I'll let you guys answer to that. Some of the animals that we're concerned about, the pregnant ones or the medical ones, we're not going to assess a dog with a broken leg. And in the LA City shelters, we do late-term spay-neuters. So those animals would be, that gets into a whole different category than what we're talking about. So, I like the idea, I love that idea of moving the animals, if they tested a 3, 4, or 5, trying to figure out how to reorder the dogs in the shelter so that they were put in a quieter place so that they could be reassessed. I thought that was really neat. I don't think, I think that might be something. There's a lot of marketing in just the placement of animals in the shelters, and we don't do that now. And some of the reason we don't do that now is because we don't aren't training people to understand the body language. I mean, we had when we moved, had a lot of animals down in South LA recently. We had a few dog fights, and the captain called me up and he said, "Can I do a little lesson about body language, because that's all that's causing this," and that took care of the fights. So we need the training. Our staff needs the training. I ask for your support for this one pilot program, and I'd like to let Emily and Heather answer any of your questions about the details that I probably can't answer.
So just to add to that, one of our thoughts was that it's potentially there's a lot of cat energy out there. That what will happen is that we'll be able to generate the support for one program before we are for others. And if felinality, we get the volunteers, we get the energy going, then that program can start before other programs do. And that, to us, makes good logical sense, not to try and do everything at once anyway, and to start where the energy is, and frankly, to start where the risk is highest. There's been a lot of talk about dogs today, but really, cats are the most at risk. So that would be a part of our plan.